Psalm 23 is about the Good Shepherd, and David foresaw him in his life. He experienced the fullness of who God is in Father, Son, and Spirit, and he looked to his Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd is Jesus. I want to draw out, just briefly, 4 ways that I see Psalm 23 guiding us and leading us into the abundant life. So discovering the Good Shepherd, 4 ways. First, discover the Good Shepherd by pausing in the space between the need and the answer. Pause in that moment of need before you have the answer. David's shepherd didn't provide immediate answers. Instead, he makes the sheep lie down, green pastures. There's a slowness by the still water, the meandering brook, or the misty meadow. And over time, the shepherd provides restoration. He restores the sheep. And then he provides guidance along this path of righteousness. And this pause in the space between, it gives the opportunity for rest. Even in my sermon prep, I struggled with want. At one point, I was on my computer, just prepping my thoughts, and somehow I ended up shopping for new Nike sneakers. I don't even know how it happened. But this is the way it comes at us. We are all in want. We all want things. We all want relationships. There's a lot of things that we desire that are good. But to pause in that space between the need and the answer, that's what our digital devices do not help us do. Just Google it. I mean, how often are you with your family, your friends, and you're like, oh, wait, what was that? And seconds later, you have the answer. In his tender way, the Good Shepherd does his work in the space between the need and the answer. It's uncomfortable. It's not fast. It's painful. It's confusing at times. And digital distractions, they shorten the distance between the question and the answer. They're so good at that. And I wonder if we've become so comfortable filling the spaces between us and the Lord that if we've limited his ability to work things out before the right path becomes clear. When we're with our friends and our family, we kind of know to put the phone in our pocket or off the table, or we're told to do so. Get that phone off the table. We don't have the phone at the dinner table when we're together. But when we're alone, it's different. We have our phones. We steward our phones. I think a lot of us have learned through life to steward technology in proper ways. But I've been wondering if our phone use, in particular, is creating an unnecessary middleman between us and the Lord. That's what I started to feel this week, almost the refreshment of being with him more constantly. And we've been missing out on his good work in the space between. And second, discover the Good Shepherd by letting go of fear in the valley. David leaves the still waters. He leaves the green pastures. And he finds the righteous path of the Lord, and ultimately, it leads him into the valley of the shadow of death, the darkest valley. Interestingly, what David claims in this valley is that he's going to let go of fear. His lack of fear isn't due to circumstances that were not scary. He should have been afraid. If you read over David's life, there were many times he faced what should have been a lot of earthly fear. Yet there in the valley, it's there. When the sheep is alone in the dark valley, he doesn't know what he needs. He receives the correction of the rod, the guidance and the tender embrace of the shepherd's staff. And the sheep doesn't realize the shepherd is there until he's prompted by the rod or the staff, or protected by the rod. The rod and the staff in this way become a reminder to the sheep that the good shepherd is there. And the reason the sheep is able to let go of that fear is because, and it says it right there in the psalm, the Lord is there. And how does the sheep know that the Lord is there? His rod and staff, they comfort me. Think on your own valley, your own life, your own fears. Even when we can't see God in the valley, his correction, his guidance, they are there to be discovered. And what's our version of fear today? I mean, even in relation to digital technology and maybe what a lot of people in our world are facing. A common experience is feeling anxious. To feel anxious is to sense the complication of the demands of life, that all of this is not going to add up. It's not all going to work out. The opposite of anxiety is peace. But feeling anxious is like falling to pieces. It's like falling apart. It's unraveling at the seams. But we might think the opposite is everything falling into place or everything working out. But the opposite is peace, wholeness. And it's there when we're able to let go of fear in the valley that we can experience the wholeness and the peace of God despite the circumstances. Surprisingly, the valley is the place to let go of fear. I mean, how hard is that? But that's the place. It's not the green pasture. It's easy to not be anxious by still waters. But no, David is discovering through the Good Shepherd, letting go of fear in the valley is a very present reality for him. This leads to number 3. Discover the Good Shepherd by embracing the comfort of discipline. Our screens and Netflix, they make us comfortable. God's comfort often involves correction. So how do we work that out? Hebrews 12, you can read it another time or later on, talks about how God disciplines us like a loving father, like a father disciplines his son. It's not pleasant at the time, but it's leading to a good place. That's what the Lord's discipline is. When I think about discipline and comfort and being comfortable, you know what makes me comfortable? My couch, popcorn, Netflix, hanging out with my wife, and kombucha. I love kombucha. I can't say it, but I love it. So little things, those are what make me feel comfortable. But in our comfortable lives, we've become like undisciplined sheep, unable to receive his rod and his staff as comfort. When I was reading through Psalm, I first read it as his rod is correction and his staff is comfort. But it actually says his rod and staff, they comfort me. Meaning that discipline is actually a comfort from the Lord. And as an application, as we close, I'm going to invite you into a season of spiritual disciplines as we depart kind of the 7-day digital fast. If we don't make lasting change, then why are we even doing this? I'm going to invite you into a path forward, giving you a few ideas in your own life about spiritual practices and disciplines that you can discover, and by so doing, discover the Good Shepherd. Dallas Willard, in his book, The Spirit of the Disciplines, he describes a spiritual discipline this way, and I really like his description. A discipline for the spiritual life is simply an activity undertaken to bring us into effective cooperation with Christ and his kingdom. So a discipline for the spiritual life is simply an activity undertaken to bring us into effective cooperation with Christ and his kingdom. Spiritual disciplines are things like prayer, fasting, Bible reading, silence, solitude, celebration, worship, service. They're the activities of our Christian life, but these are the ways that we behave as healthy sheep that bring us into further connection with the Good Shepherd. And in that way, these spiritual disciplines, they become like a rod or a staff in our lives, guiding and redirecting. And this leads us to number 4. This is not an easy one. Discover the Good Shepherd by trusting that his provision is best. How's that working out for you? I think for a lot of us as we grow and move along in life, we get better at this, but it still is never an easy or simple thing to put into practice. The table, the anointing, the overflowing cup, these are pictures of God's provision. And they come out of David's earthly experience. David had a table set before him while enemies were pursuing him. He was anointed as a prince, but he had to wait to become king. His cup overflowed. The Lord himself promised that his throne would last forever. And ultimately, the provision that David looked into was the Good Shepherd himself. Jesus is the Good Shepherd. And Jesus contrasts his role as the Good Shepherd with the work of the enemy. And we saw this from last week, and we complete this verse this week from John 10, verse 10 and 11 on your screen. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays his life down for the sheep. Psalm 23 is about the Good Shepherd. And David foresaw him in his life. He experienced the fullness of who God is in Father, Son, and Spirit. And he looked to his Good Shepherd. And so the Good Shepherd is Jesus.